Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another journaling on a budget starting from scratch. Today we are going to make a page like this page. I did my sample right in the book because I didn't want to waste paper, but I wanted to make sure that I figured it was going to work. And I haven't seen this done before, but I'm sure it probably has been done. And this is just a 4-pocket page. So it may not look like it's 4 pockets, but it is one tag this size and one tag this size, which are the same size except that one will be a little longer than the other. Because the first one, we have a little gap here in the middle. The first one will fit into its pocket and come just to the inside of that gap so that this pocket over here is left open. And then this pocket will slide in here, and you could actually make this stick all the way across the whole page. I like to make it come just to the outside edge of that gap. And then I have the same thing here. One is a little shorter than the other, so the short one I'm going to put in on one side and bring it to just inside that gap so that I don't block the opening of this pocket. And then I'm going to just take this one and bring it just to the edge of there. And like I said, you could take those tags and make them, the second tag can go all the way out, and then the first tag is just kind of like a little hidden secret tag. So, and that is what that looks like. And then this one, when I put it on here, it blended in so well with the tea dye in the background that I wound up putting the stitching around the edges, and I thought that just really made it stand out. So remember, if you don't have like a lot of inks or whatever to do like edging that way, stitching is a really cute way to edge, and it looks really nice. So I had kind of forgot about it, and I thought about like trying to draw a line around here, or trying to use my sponge with a little wet color to edge the paper, because I hadn't edged it before I put it down, and then stitching popped into my head. So that's a really great idea to do that. And I'm going to show you how to make this pocket. We're going to make one in the second signature, and we're going to make it here. Not much of this is going to show through, but we'll get a little bit of that. And this is a piece of paper that came out of the book. It was like the leaf paper in the book, the first page. So it's a nice, actually kind of heavy paper, and it looks nice with this side over here. So you want your paper to be as tall as the page you're going to put it on. It doesn't have to be as wide as that. If you got a piece that's a little shorter or whatever, that's fine, because we're going to cut the edges off anyways. But you definitely want to make sure that it's as tall, just so that it goes top to bottom, because that's not going to move. These sides are going to move outwards. So we're just going to take this page and we're going to fold it in half. Now remember that because we're going to move it, when you cut your shape in it, you don't want to go all the way out to the edge, because that edge is going to be cut off at some point. And then, let's see, we did a heart on the other one, so we definitely don't want a heart like right next to a heart. That's a little too heartsy. And we could do like a circle or a square, or let's just do an organic shape. Remember that however much you leave at the top and the bottom, that's how big your pockets are going to be able to be. And so I'm just going to maybe start here. And just kind of cut like a little, kind of a scalloped circle or something. Just like that. Now this piece we're going to save, because this is part of our project. And then what we're going to do is we are going to wind up cutting this right down the center, setting it on there, and then moving it out about a 1/2 inch so that you'll have a 1/2 inch space all the way around here. I think I like that way better. So because we're going to do that, that is going to move both edges of this shape out. But the top and the bottom are going to stay right where they are. They're going to go outwards, but they're not going to move up and down. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take some off the top and the bottom, before we cut it in half to give us a gap up here and down here. So we're going to follow what we've got here, starting at about a 1/2 inch out and then coming into, we don't want to move this out any farther because it's going to move out when we move the paper. So I'm just going to start out about a 1/2 inch and, just kind of follow these lines, but I'm going to do it at an angle. So what I'm doing is I am like making my way, instead of keeping it a 1/2 inch all the way around, starting at a 1/2 inch and making my way up to probably about this point, because that's all going to move out. So just kind of follow those curves. And this is just so that you want to follow the curve so that it kind of matches the shape that you have here. I didn't really I wish I would have put bigger bumps in it. It would have been much more. Start out at about a 1/2 inch. It would have looked better had I made the lumps a lot bigger, but I didn't, so it is what it is. Okay. Now we're just going to cut this right down the center line. Just right down that fold. Here we go. And now these two pieces will be glued on the outside. And what we'll do is we'll decide how far out do we want to bring them. Probably about like that. That's a little wider than the other, but I like the looks. There. And then this sits right in the center. And like I said, had I made it like bumpier, it would have been better. You would have noticed that it's exactly the same. But, but still you see it here. And I like the way that does look. And I like just that little bit of shorthand coming through the background just to tie it in with the whole book. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say that I need to cut this. There's the top of my page. There's the bottom, so I need to cut that one there. Oops. And I need to cut this one. Right there. So I'm just going to cut that off. And then I'll show you how to glue it. There's my ruler. All right, let me find my ruler really quick and just cut these off because I don't want to try and eyeball it because it will be very crooked. So let me get my ruler so I can draw a line on there, and I will be right back and we'll glue it together. Okay, I am back and I cut down the edges, and then what I did was, because it was, I wanted to edge it. And so what I did was I used a red marker and I edged it, and it's not that noticeable, but when you put it on the page, it really makes a difference. At that point, then you really notice that edging. And I thought, well, I started to do it because I figured, well, you don't want to sit there and watch me do it. But then I got to thinking maybe some people don't know how to do it. They've never done it before. So all you do is you just take your marker and you draw along. You push your marker up to the edge of your paper and draw along the edge of your paper. And that just gives it just a little tiny bit of edging. When I used to edge, when I first started paper crafting and I didn't know how to do it, what I used to try and do was I used to try and take the marker and draw on the paper, and then I'd get a thick spot, and so then I would make the whole thing thick, and then I'd do the next one, and then I'd get a thick spot, and as I was getting that whole thing thick, I'd get another thick spot, so I'd get thicker, so I'd have to make this one, and I'd wind up with a 1/2 inch of line all the way around, when I just wanted just a little bit of a highlight all the way around. So that's how you do it. And here, when you're going around the bumpy edges, you need to make sure that you've got good light so you can see where you're going, and then you just literally do the same thing. You just let your pen run along the edge of your page. But what happened was I kind of got up on my page a little bit right there, so it's a little thicker. I could thicken the whole thing, but I'm not going to. That one little spot is not going to make a difference, and I'm going to leave it just like that, or otherwise I could wind up with a 1/2 inch red line around there. So that's how you just put a little bit of color on the edge of your paper. Oh, and what I did first, because I want to stitch around the edges too with the red marker, but what I did was I just took a piece of the scrap paper and I ran my red down the edge to see what it was going to look like, and then I went ahead and put the stitches on there because I wasn't sure. I don't care for the green in this. The green is kind of well, maybe it's not as bright as I think it is, but I thought red would be a good color to do it with. So now we've got this all ready to glue in, and the way that we glue it, let me get my thing here, is because I'm going to make it so we have 2 pockets at the top and 2 pockets at the bottom, nothing in the middle, because I still think trying to get in with these edges here, they're going to kind of bend in that type of thing, and we don't need big. It'll be fun to have 4 little tags instead of 1 or 2 big tags. And that way, by doing that, your center still shows up, because if you put big tags in, you're going to cover your middle, and I thought we'd put a pretty flower or something on here. And so this is how you do it. You go ahead and you've got your middle part that you want completely glued down. So you're just going to start at the top of that middle part and go across like this, and start at the bottom and go across like that. And then for your top pocket, we're going to come across the top. This one's going to be a very little tag because of how close I got that one to the top. And then we're going to go across the outside of this and the bottom of this. There we go. And then just fill in next to your decorative shape. You're going to fill in that whole area. So the center will be completely glued down that way. And we're just going to get a hold of it, line it up with the edges of our page, like that. I want to make sure that's on the page, yes. Sometimes when you've got pages behind pages, you need to make sure you're lining it up with the edge of this page and not the edge of the page that's behind here, if you might have something sticking out on the next page. So there we go, that one's done. Excuse me. And so again, we're going to put a line right across from that center, and across at the top and across at the bottom. And then we're going to make our pockets by going along the outside edge and the bottom edge, and the outside edge and the top edge. And you don't need a lot of glue. A lot of glue makes it wrinkle even more. And then we're going to just go around this center part and fill in the whole thing. Now the other one, we made sure we lined up nicely with the edges of our page. This one, we are going to make sure that we line up with this outside edge, but then we're going to make sure that we line up with this one over here at the top and at the bottom. Like that. So just in case you wind up with, like, let's say you've got a gap at the top or at the bottom, you know, your page isn't quite as long, or your piece here is not quite as long as your page, just make sure that you line these up with each other. So there we go. Got our center, and we've got our 4 pockets. And then this one goes this way. At least we have a nice bump here, so that gives it some definition. And then again, we're gonna glue it down. And this is a nice heavy piece of paper, so I'm just rubbing the glue out to the edges of the design, just so that it's not real wrinkly. Then I'm going to center this just like that. And there we go. Now we have that look, and I thought we would put a pretty flower there. I thought maybe in the pink tones to make it go with the page next to it. See, I see a bunch of pinks on the bottom here. And we want a nice little that kind of takes away from what we've got going on there. If I cut that flower off, I'm just kind of looking at that here. What about this one? That one's okay. It's a little bit big, I think, for what I'm thinking, but it looks nice. So let's see if we've got something that's a little bit smaller that would look nice there. Oh, I think I like that with the colors, the pinkish color over here. I think that one looks nicer. And I like having a little bit of leaves on it. They don't have to, but sometimes it just, you know, the extra bit of color. I still think I like that one better. And these were just, we bought a flower book and we cut out those flowers to make flowers for this series. Oh, I kind of like that. That's kind of what I was looking for, was something that would fit inside there with some leaves. Nope, I think I like this one better. So we're going to glue that on there. Just going to get some glue on the back here, and then I'm going to spread it out to the edges, just so that it's not as wet. And we know that we've got the edges nicely glued down. There we go. I think that looks really cute. Okay, and then I had a little bit of that backing paper left after we cut this. Oh, that's cute. That's really cute. It's purple though, probably shouldn't go there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to see how big these pockets are. I'm going to take my tear ruler because it looks like that's about the size I'm going to need. Yep, that fits in there. And comes out to there. Okay, so I wanted about the width of this tear ruler, and I wanted about 2.5 inches long for the short one. and 1¼ inches wide. I was trying to measure to see if my ruler was 1¼ inches, but it's not. It's 1 inch, I think. But I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, so long as I know it's not more than 1¼ Make it a little bit over 1. I'm just going to line my ruler up on the paper so I can draw a line. And then, how long is this? That's 5 inches. Where's my scissors? If I could erase that, I should have went this way. That's almost 5½ inches. So I could have the longer tag for the top. So I'm going to see how well, no, yes. I'm going to see how well this line will erase. Sorry for shaking the table. Oh, thank goodness, it erased really nicely. Okay. Now I'm going to go this way. I needed about 1¼ My ruler's 1 inch, so I want to make sure that I just leave a little bit extra. Make sure that it's straight. Put a line there. And put a mark at 2½. Now I am going to, because these ones on the bottom, the ones here that are on the bottom, they're going to be wider this way, but they're going to be just as deep this way. So I am going to make this 2½ inch line go, I'm going to make a few more 2½ inch marks, and I'm going to make that line go all the way across and cut this in half right there. And then I'll make my wider tag out of the 2 leftover pieces. Okay. Okay, so there's my 2½, and the other one's going to be about 3. So this one's going to go in here. Oh, that's a little bit too wide. It's going to go in there. And it's a little too tall also. So that one's going to go in there. And it fits just shy of that there. So that we do have room for this one. Is this one going to be also too wide? Yes, it is. And this is a little crooked, so I'm going to cut it straighter. And this one's going to go in. Right there. And now I'll just have to decide if I want to cut it off here or if I want to let it stick out that far. I think I got my glue a little bit high on this side. And I think I am going to cut it off right there. So really they're both going to wind up being about the same length. So there we go. Now we have our 2 tags there. And then this one, if I just kind of measure from the bottom up about 2 inches. So I'm just going to mark this one about 2 inches. Might have to trim this one down also. But it's better to have enough that you can trim it down than to make it smaller than you want, because you can't add the paper back to it. And I cut inside the line. Okay, so we've got this one for this side. Need to take off just a little bit. And we have this one for this side. And I'm going to cut that one right about there. So there we go. Now we have our four little tags in there. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to use my marker to just stitch around the edge. I always like to start at a corner. If you start in the middle of a line, when you get to there, you need to make sure you've got enough space between the one you started with and the one you're finishing with to get one more. Sometimes you have to make an extra long one because of that. So I always do like to start like right at a corner of some sort. Because then if you're a little too short, you can always take your next stitch, like right next to that. And if you're long enough, then you can start your next stitch going the other way underneath that, like this. And so that gives you just a little bit of leeway on your stitching. Oh, I messed that up. And I find that if I mess something up, I really should leave it. Whoops, and then I touch the paper there because I should just be having this on my table. And so I'm just going to do this all the way around. I think I'll do it around the tags also. And then we'll find some pretty flowers that we can put on the tags. Or maybe some affirmation words or something like that. But I'll finish stitching this and then I will come back and we'll do the tags and we'll be all set with that page. But even just the way it looks right now, I just really think that it looks nice. So I will be back in just a few. Okay, I have decided on the flowers that I want to put on my tags. And I don't want to leave the tags just plain on the edges, but I also don't really want to use the stitching or the solid red line. So I've decided to use green. And the green is not as bad as I thought it was. So, and I'm going to use green paint. And I started to do it and then I thought, oh, wait a minute, I better come back just to make sure that everybody knows what I've done. And so just green marker, couple of drops of white paint, and we will have green paint that we can, I lost my paint, that we can use to edge. Okay, I'm going to start with, I've got a drop on there already, and so I'm going to start with one more drop. And I did test it to see if I liked it first, and I do. Now this is being very spread out, so I think I'm also going to add just a couple drips of water to it because it's going to dry out really fast. Okay, and then just give it just a quick spritz of water. Alrighty, now so these are the flowers that I've chosen to put on them, and these ones, I thought they are really pretty. I'm going to set our book aside so that we can do the edging on these. I'm just going to pick up some of that paint. And I'm not worrying about it being super thin. like as far as like just along the edge. I want it to kind of bump up a little bit on the top. So see, just because it's really blending in nicely, so it's not like totally in your face. And letting it get on the top like that just a little bit here and there makes it even more noticeable that it's there. So that just depends on if you want it, you know, totally in the background and not too noticeable, then just do the edges, you know, very slightly like that, you know, just kind of like that. But I kind of like to get it right up on there a little bit. And then also what I'm going to do is just put a little bit with what I have left. Just do a little bit of quick background stamping, just so that it's not totally flat. That makes such a difference, just that little bit of background stamping, to like make it just look, just to give it some dimension. So I do have a little bit left here. I'm going to lay all 4 of them out by each other, like that. And let's grab a piece of paper, just any old scrap piece of paper. Just rip a little piece, scrunch it up. If you haven't seen this before, this is how I do background stamping when I don't have some kind of a background stamp around me. I just kind of squinch it up like that. So it's got different levels, different layers. And then just put it in the paint. And then you kind of want to turn things a little bit so it's not the same stamp over and over. And see, that just really gives it just that little something extra. And the difference between like putting this flower on here with that little bit of extra on there versus just flat. So just flat or just a little background. I think the little background just makes such a big difference. So I'm just, what did I do with my stamp? Oh, here it is. And with this one, I really should probably concentrate more towards the, kind of towards the outside edges, because the flowers are going to be in the middle. Okay. I like both of those. This one needs a little bit more. Now that I've got it on the outside pretty good, now I'll fill in the blanker spaces just so in case the flower doesn't touch that spot. But mostly I wanted to make sure before I ran out of paint that I got all the outside edges. So there we go. Now we have all the background in there, and we are just going to put our flowers on here, and our tags will be done. Gonna put them on just like that. Oops, where'd the other one go? There we go. I'm going to kind of put them off to the edge a little bit when I spread the glue around, just so that I should have a glue book is what I should have, but I don't. So just rub it off onto the tablecloth, which is plastic. There we go. 1 down, 3 to go. I hope you like this little 4-pocket page. I think that they turn out really cute. I'll need to go finish the tags for the other one. Sometimes I can't figure out which way these go, but I think it goes that way. 2 down. And I just love that I have to say, I've been avoiding the green because I didn't think I liked it, and now that I've done it, it's a different color green than I thought, and I really, really like it. And I should have known because way back in the beginning, I did actually color some of the papers with some of the green. The one that's on the opposite side of this was colored with the green marker, so I don't know why I was thinking. I thought it was like a Kelly green. And that is just not my, it's a color I just don't care for that much. Last one. There we go. And I'm going to put that piece of paper over there so I don't glue my book to the table. Okay, so the pink one goes on this side because it's just a touch shorter, although it really doesn't matter because they're pretty much about the same now. Oops, I got that in there crooked. And this one goes on this side. Just like that. And then this one goes over here. Oops. And finally, I got eraser bits all over the place. This one needs a little bit of glue underneath that. Right underneath that leaf. Now I will be taking these out, and I'm actually going to stick them in a book to let them dry, but I wanted you to see what it looks like and make sure that they all fit, and they do. So there we go. We've got a little bit of the leaves peeking out here, and then when you take them out, we've got all of these beautiful little tags and a really pretty page. And I think because this page is really quite busy, I'm not going to do anything here. That does give you room to write if you want to write, maybe even write about what you've got on your tags in here, or to put little pictures or something. But I think that it's busy enough over here that this really calms these down, and I think that looks really quite elegant like that. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.